The French have always had a particularly close relationship with Buichi Terasawa's Cobra. Even by the series' own conception, Terasawa was heavily influenced by the French comic-turned-movie Barbarella, which was almost one-to-one in setting and aesthetic for the manga. In fact, Cobra himself is based in looks and personality on French actor Jean-Paul Belmondo, even in spite of canonically being American. And of the royal sisters, Jane is named after Barbarella herself, Jane Fonda, and Catherine and Dominique are based on French actresses Catherine Deneuve and Dominique Sanda, respectively. The life of Cobra in France helped spark imagination in many of the creative minds the country would grow, making it appropriate that it would be the home of the driving force to attempt to bring Cobra to the big screen. Prior to any talk of a live-action movie, one of the most prolific directors to be a fan of Cobra is Luc Besson, best known for his works such as The Fifth Element and La Femme Nikita. While Fifth Element took more inspiration from 60s French sci-fi comic Valerian and Laureline in its style and story, Besson was openly a fan of Cobra, and actually met with Terasawa when the French director was promoting Fifth Element, where they discussed their feelings on the current state of sci-fi. Along with creators like Besson, French children of the 80s would turn on channels Canal Plus and Antenne 2 to turn into the adventures of the suave space pirate Cobra and his loyal and capable partner, Lady Armoroid. In particular, the child in subject today would spend his entire career as a filmmaker trying to bring the series to the silver screen, and while ultimately it wouldn't see the light of day, it's worth it to look at the kind of passion that motivates someone to try and adapt something they love against all odds. The story of the adaptation begins more than 10 years ago, when Buichi Terasawa let it slip in an interview with the Mainichi Shimbun that he had been given an offer for a Cobra live-action movie from Hollywood, describing this information as off the record. It is unknown what studio actually gave him the offer, but given it would be Lionsgate that would be handling production when the movie was greenlit, it's logical to assume they gave Terasawa the offer. And that was the most of everything heard about the project. For a long while, neither Terasawa nor any Hollywood studio came out to say anything had been moving forward with the project. That was, until the August of 2010. Enter Alexandre Aja. Alexandre Aja is a French-born filmmaker best known for his work on horror movies such as The Hills Have Eyes and Piranha 3D. His father is French filmmaker Alexandre Arcadi, who made such films as Le Grand Pardon 2, and his mother is film critic Marie-Jo Juan. He had grown up watching Cobra, along with his longtime screenwriting partner, Gregory Levasseur. And for both of them, this was a dream project that they hoped would bring Cobra to a worldwide mainstream audience. It was reported that Terasawa himself actually granted Aja the rights to make the movie, giving the film hope that it was off to a great start. In an interview with Deadline in the same article that announced his involvement, Aja talked about his personal attachment to the franchise, saying, "I grew up dreaming about Cobra. My day was finish school, run home and switch on the TV, and I was hardly the only one. Kids did it in France, Italy, Spain, all over Western Europe. For many people there was Star Wars and nothing else, but for me and my writing partner Gregory, there was Star Wars and Cobra. I am so surprised it never crossed the ocean and made the same impact in the US, because it is so big everywhere else. There are 60 books, a lot of TV animation, and so many adventures, pirates, and bad guys that it is perfect to be reinvented into a really cool space opera adventure franchise for a new generation." The first step in the production for Aja and his team was to look for investors and creature designers. Aja stated he wanted the film to be presented in 3D, as he felt science fiction and 3D are a good mix. Considering this was just a year after Avatar, at the time the most financially successful film ever made, which would spawn the 3D boom that would last for well over half a decade, it makes sense that Aja would think that 3D should be utilized in a psychedelic space opera adventure. Many reports seem to have it that the movie was planned for the release as early as 2012 to the summer of 2013. The vision for both Aja and Lionsgate was that the movie would be the start of a tentpole franchise for the studio. They had hoped that the movie would spawn interest into the series from the US audience, as most other countries were aware of the manga and anime. From the information gathered, the movie seems to be adapting the Royal Sisters arc, similar to how the 1982 animated movie did. Most sources describe the plot as Cobra meeting up with the bounty hunter Jane Royal in an attempt to save her sisters and find a treasure of Mars from maps tattooed on their backs. Unfortunately, there's no true source on whether or not any of this was true, or if it would be in the script's final draft, or even if there was a final draft. There was also no news of any casting choices or if any of the rumors about what Aja's final vision was were true. All that would be released were proof of concept posters, with an unknown model as the titular Cobra. The designs appeared to be a slightly more detailed take on the traditional red jumpsuit the character was known for, and, interestingly, Cobra's signature weapon, the Psycho Gun, seemed to stay fairly in line with Terasawa's original design. However, the 2012-2013 timeframe would come and go, and not even a production still, nor any more promotional material would surface. There would be, however, an update in 2014 from the director himself with Cinema Blend, saying, "It's a huge project, super expensive, like $150 million plus. It can only be done with a major movie star, and most of them are not available for like 5 years. So we're still working and trying to make it happen." 2014 would be the same year Gregory Levasseur, the movie's co-writer, would make his directorial debut for The Pyramid. Aja would also release his dark fantasy film, Horns, in that period as well. Several years would pass with barely any mentioning of the Cobra movie making big strides. By 2018, the film had been talked about for 10 years, and was 5 years behind the original greenlit release date. Finally, on March 14, 2018, Alexandre Aja appeared on the podcast Postmortem with Mick Garris, which he would be asked how the production of the film was going.
Speaking of deciding on movies making, the next one for you is that Super Adventure Cobra?
No,
is that happening or?
That was a dream project. I grew up watching this Japanese anime, and after Piranha, I had the possibility to secure the right, and we developed the script, and we went pretty deep into pre-production. We were doing it with Lionsgate at the time, and French partner. And unfortunately, the change of regime at the time at Lionsgate when Joe Drake left and the Summit people arrived, which are also people that produce P2 with me. So I knew them, but they were not believing in that space adventure, huge movie. I mean, the budget was 130 million.
Oh, it's nothing.
So it was like crazy, but we had found a way to do it. And so because of that, things got delayed and Guardian of the Galaxy came on.
Oh, yeah.
And Guardian of the Galaxy were pretty much the twin of Cobra.
Really?
And the same
that must have broken your heart.
I mean, every time I see my son playing with Guardian of the Galaxy Lego.
With Gru toys.
Yeah, I'm picturing that parallel world where he's playing with Cobra Lego. But that was kind of, and then one of the element of our pitch was it's time to do a new Star Wars. That also happened.
Now it's done.
While there's no way to prove whether the film could have been the tentpole series both the studio and the production team hoped it would be or not, what's sad is if the movie had been finished, it seems like it could have been a huge success. If not in the United States or even Japan, at least in European countries, considering how passionate fans of the anime and manga are in those countries. Ultimately, it seems as though there was simply more stopping the production than actually starting it. Because of missing a lead actor, a fluctuating budget, and the undeniably steep risk of trying to sell an obscure manga to an American audience, it seems it just wasn't in the cards for the movie to come out. Probably the most famous example of a troubled anime-to-movie adaptation for most people is the Akira movie, which has basically been in development hell since the movie was first released stateside. Development of the film is often criticized by fans for not staying true to the source material, some claiming it's Americanizing too much of a manga and anime distinctly based in Japanese culture. Cobra's adaptations seem to have none of those issues. From day one, it seemed like it was a movie by fans, for fans, and it ultimately just wasn't the time for it to get made. In spite of Cobra being a tough sell that ultimately didn't seem profitable to the higher-ups, there's no reason for fans to lose all hope, as sometimes dead projects can be resurrected, such as the Akira movie, which is now being directed by Taika Waititi. The most positive thing to take away from this is that there are people who want to adapt a beloved franchise properly. It's not always just to make money. There is love and passion that motivate filmmakers to give the world something they love. Here's to hoping someday the movie can come out. But for now, Cobra, there's only true memories after you.